This is the Bonus Section Podcast, episode number 69. You need goal-directed enthusiasm. Are you the type of person that knows you were meant for something greater in this lifetime and that somewhere inside of you there's just this bigger version trying to break through, but in spite of all your self-development attempts, you just can't seem to find your way up there? Well then, hey, you are definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Bonus Section and the host of this podcast, and a person just like you trying to live the most fulfilling life possible. Now, to help you take immediate action to get moving in a better direction, we take all the notes from each episode and post them for a short period of time so that you have something to work on each week. And we leave them at freethinkingtools.com because that's what they are, freethinkingtools.com. The purpose of this podcast is provoke you to think. We want you to think about what's going on in your life so that you can get really directed to become the best that you can be. And like my kids, I'm going to push you. All right, you need goal-directed enthusiasm. What does this mean? Well, I was listening to Jordan Peterson, who's a little bit of a controversial figure. I'm not sure why. I think he's a super intellectual guy. Just go to YouTube and check out some of his work. It's really powerful stuff. And I like him because he makes me think. Very passionate guy. And he started talking about this goal-directed enthusiasm. And I thought that was really interesting because, you see all of these universal concepts that come together because the word enthusiasm is most definitely one of the laws in Napoleon Hill's Law of Success book. Now, if you don't know that book, it's really thick. It's not the Think and Grow Rich, which is great and more of a story, but the Law of Success is a really thick, almost biblically thick book where Napoleon Hill was a writer at the turn of the century who was challenged by Andrew Carnegie to study success. And Carnegie got him access to some of the greatest minds of his time. So he went around and studied all these folks and he learned a lot. And enthusiasm was one of those simple laws. And that's what's cool about Hill's book. You should go check it out. Law of Success. Really good book. And it has just a bunch of simple success principles in there is the best way to say it. And enthusiasm is one of them, right? Enthusiasm for what you do. And then here's Peterson talking about how goal-directed enthusiasm. And that's what the podcast is about. We're always trying to provoke you. And I said this to my kids since they were little. If you could do one thing the rest of your life, what would it be? And it's almost a permission. That's a permission because in our minds, we have that thing that so intrigues us. And you know what it is because you think about it all the time. Let's sit there for a second and be honest with yourself. I know it'll scare you and some of you will duck it, but the truth is, it really is that thing that you think about all the time. That's a goal. And again, it might seem like a passion or whatever it might be, but that's just what it is. It's a goal. It's a goal that you are thinking about this thing. And then we just have to get you to take some action. Right? So I think that's where this begins. So the first point here is that we are goal-seeking beings. You have to understand that human beings, we are driven. And I know everybody says, well, I'm not driven and this person's driven. Well, we're all driven. How about this? Let's go down to the base. We aren't driven to survive. That's a goal to survive. And then another goal to procreate and continue the species. That's basic animalistic behavior that's in every human. And then the problem with us versus the animal is we have this ability to think and empathize and make all these decisions and procrastinate and get stuck. You get it, right? So we really have to realize that at our core, we are goal-seeking beings. And after a certain time, because we're more complex, just surviving is not enough. I don't know. I mean, I think I've seen it in dogs, which are, unbelievably powerful, cats, animals, house pets. You can see that they have some level of understanding and empathy that's higher level. But we are really complex when it comes to that. So the problem is when we have that self-talk moment, if we are not really seeking a worthy goal beyond survival, I think it can get downright depressing. There is a lot of idle time. You hear this all the time. I call it white space. My brain, and maybe it's the ADD and not necessarily goal seeking, but my brain is afraid of white space. I don't like to sit still and not feel productive. I think I just have an overwiring and an overdrive to be productive, and I'm curious. I just don't stop. So I'm always looking for goals, and there could be micro goals inside a macro goal. In other words, macro, I want to become this person for others. As time goes on, I want to evolve into that. Micro might be, I might do that in a podcast like this, which is more of a general audience of people that are trying to self-develop versus a real estate audience where I make my living per se. So those are all micro goals, but they all fall under the macro goal of always trying to become the best person for others that I can be, trying to leave people better than I find them. And that's a difficult goal. It's difficult. There are all sorts of problems that come along the way in it. And, you sort of have this idealistic sense once you set a goal, I'm going to be a person for others. And that's been on my heart for a long time. I mean, I go back to probably not being able to articulate it as a kid, but feeling that way, wanting to leave people better than I found them and not be in any sense, abusing that person's ability to live a good life. That's another Napoleon Hill conversation. Very powerful book, that Law of Success. I highly recommend it. He talks about a lot of these things. You can go get these goals as long as you're not violating the rights of other people. I think is pretty close to what he says. That's a powerful concept, right? So these goals that are there in our heads mostly, then we have to kind of get them there. So how do you get them going? Well, I think the second point is, and I think I've talked about this the last couple of weeks, it seems to be a theme running through my brain, and that is to make real goals that matter to you. So you see, a real goal is not a realistic goal necessarily. That's a very important point here, because your perception of what realistic is right now is way below what your potential is. That's just also a human fact. And Peterson was talking about this. He talks about it, and again, I know where we stand these days with pronouns, etc., and I'm respectful of that. I'm just telling you, in his methodology of trying to explain this, he talks about an ancestral father that we're trying to reconcile with. And what he really means is genealogy. And I think this is a pretty fascinating concept. The goals that matter to us may very well have been wired on board from this long genealogy that we have. Right? This history. That's why genealogy is fascinating. Who are we? Where do we come from? And aren't we made up of all of the genes and the wirings and maybe the psychologies of all these people that came before us? And his point is, you can't really release that unless you're really pushing into these goals that matter to you. So let's just say that you wake up one day and you want to be an actress. I mean, I have 2 kids now that want to be actors, and I have another one that wants to be, a powerful entrepreneur, finance type of guy. I could go on. I always use my kids as examples because they're right in front of me, but the lessons are general. And the idea is that matters, that goal that matters to them came from that permission. But more importantly, all of them, none of them, believed what they said was realistic for them when they first said it. None of them. The ability for one to move to New York and go to school, it seemed like, coming from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, this, suburban, beautiful ocean community, small and what it was, and then to imagine that this kid could go to New York City and she could take her bite out of the apple per se, that she could go to college there, that she could work there for a big corporation. So when it was first spoken about, here's somebody that the goal mattered. You could see it was this ancestral genealogy was in her, because as a kid, she would take all the kids from the neighborhood down into our basement and she would set up what she called Tiny Town, right? She manifested New York City in my basement. In her mind, it was Tiny Town. So the ideas were, I'm talking, she was young when she was doing this. And actually, ironically, my neighbor, Jess, worked in New York for Chanel, and she just could see it too, that this kid was bound for something like that or a place like that. And so those goals that mattered to her were really her own machinations. They were her own manifestations of what was going on in her head, and she made them real, and she set this place up, and business was conducted in the neighborhood, and all the kids played, and she set up her own economy. Flash forward, she ended up in New York and she works for a big corporation. She went to school there. She loves the lifestyle there. So the goal mattered to her. And a lot of people marvel and they wonder, well, how? Because it mattered to her. The goal itself mattered to her. But here's the key. Every time you set a goal that's big, that you don't believe is realistic, you get scared. And that's just a normal fuel that snaps you back into your current reality. And your current reality is always smaller. It's always smaller because once you see that something's possible, and then there are the big dreamers, by the way, the Elon Musks of the world who see something that has never even been done or never even contemplated being done. And they're at the other extreme where they just absolutely are fearless in trying things without any sense of embarrassment. They're amazing people. Those are amazing people that lead us all, with their enthusiasm to these ridiculously big goals, right? BHAGs, they're called, big, hairy, audacious goals. So the idea is once the goal matters, when I say it matters to you and only to you. You're going to have to realize that some of this, you're going to get pushback from the people in your life that are the closest to you. I'm talking parents, cousins, brothers, sisters, friends. You're going to scare them with your goal, but it's not their goal. It's yours. And it matters to you. And quite frankly, that's the way we evolve in life. If people are going to hold you back and keep dragging you back to a more mediocre vision of who you are and what your life is and what your goals are, you're going to have to shed them. It doesn't mean that you can't be friends with them. It just can't, you're probably not going to be able to be friendly in an intimate way because as you bounce these ideas, as you begin to pursue this goal and you talk about it, it's lost on them. And if it scares them, they will then try to scare you to bring you into where they're at. See where I'm going? It's challenging. So you want to be enthusiastic. This is the third point here. So once the goal matters, there'll be an enthusiasm. And I want you to just say this. It's possible. Maybe not for me in my mind yet, but it's possible, right? It's possible. Because once you go and say it's possible, then this is where you can turn on and trigger the enthusiasm. And you start that by saying, it's possible. And the next thing you say to trigger that enthusiasm is, why not me? Why not me? Why not me? Oh my gosh, that was crazy. I just did that for the podcast. I actually felt the chills. That's what just happened I'm getting a rush too. I'm trying to tell you this stuff is real and instantly you can affect your chemistry. You see how I just slowly stated that? Because I got excited for you if you're hearing this. And I got excited for me that anytime I say it's possible, why not me? Why not me? Why not me? Why not me? And the chemicals are beginning to change. That's the trigger. I'm telling you, you unlock the door and you open it and bang, enthusiasm comes flying out. It comes flooding out, quite frankly. I was just able to change the body chemistry right here in this podcast, right in front of you. I could feel the chills. Well, that's a change in body chemistry, right? And it's a positive one because I feel uplifted. I feel enthusiastic. So that enthusiasm is triggering real positive chemicals in my brain. But I still need that clarity of what that goal is. Well, what am I talking about? What's possible for me? You see, when I first began podcasting, that was a medium so that I could go out and be this person for others and I could be this medium. And so it seemed overwhelming to sit here, to pick the room and the photography and the lighting. And if you watch this podcast, you see I'm even in a new room. I'm beginning to set up a new studio. But in the beginning, my gosh, I was sitting in a basement. The lights were ridiculous. I looked like I'm sitting way back. The equipment stunk, but it didn't matter because the goal to help you in whatever context you find me was so real to me and it mattered and I was enthusiastic. I was foolishly enthusiastic. In other words, I didn't know what I didn't know about podcasting. I didn't know about lighting. I didn't know about the best cameras. I didn't know about the best sound, editing. I didn't have my team in place to put these things together with me, right? I didn't know any of that, but it was the enthusiasm that was serving as the rocket fuel that was compelling me. It compels me now. Look, it's the end of a day. It's dark. I've been working all day in the real estate business, and I'm enthusiastically here today. I want to talk about this stuff. I have my notes on my phone that I was at the gym listening to Jordan Peterson. I write them down, and I'm compelled. See what I'm saying? I'm giving you my real example. Now, the last point here I want to make is, well, of course, even in that enthusiasm, it wanes. Sure, I open the door. Sure, it's out of Pandora's box per se, and it's fueling the goal. And why not me? Why not me? Why not me? Goes the chant with all the voices in your head. Everybody's in sync. Why not me? Why not me for that goal, for that goal, for that goal? But life happens, right? All of a sudden, you don't know where you're going to get the next deal from. You go into a class and you fail the test. You try to take the test, a few times and you're still failing and you're still there. But that's the natural, and this is my favorite book, The New Psycho-Cybernetics, Mind Steering Systems. That's called the snapback effect because things are colliding into you. So the enthusiasm is the rocket fuel. Off goes you on your rocket out towards that goal, and the wind blows. And I mean, the wind blows for a lot of different reasons, right? Circumstances, internal feelings, sickness, whatever, anything can happen to push you off of that course. And the enthusiasm wanes or it dissipates. Maybe it feels like it dries up like a river all of a sudden, and there's nothing rushing down the river to help you float towards the goal. I get it. I understand it. But it is always something that you can call upon again. In other words, you just dig deep inside and there you go again. I know this goal is possible. I see other people, or I just believe it is, like the Elons of the world, right? I just believe it is and I know it, and why not me to figure it out? Why not me to get it? Why not me to achieve it? Why not me? Why not me? And you trigger it again. Just weird. It just happened again. I'm telling you, I know I sound like a freak here today, but I really do feel a body change when I'm saying something like that positively. So it's almost like a built-in medical drip to put me in a positive frame of mind, but without the goal to consider. You see what I mean? If I don't have that kind of clarity, what am I even talking about here? I'm making up things about, just these quips that you can say, right? Incantations, I think they call them, right? Which I've never really given much thought to until just this moment right now, because they didn't mean anything to me. But why not me? Why not me? Why not me? To achieve the thing that's been possible for others and maybe beyond, that makes sense to me. It's mechanics of how you become somebody who moves in that direction in spite of getting blown off, off that course. Because what happens is when you get blown off course, you could get blown off like backwards. Think about a stiff wind. You take 6 steps forward and you're 20 steps backwards and you're rolling down the street. Okay, well, just try to lie flat, let the wind blow over you, and get that enthusiasm. I can do it. Why not me? I can do it. I got to get up. I got to keep going. And so all of that self-talk is all driven by that goal that you want. So whatever it might be, you're compelled. All right, let me go back and hit these bullet points again. You need a goal-directed enthusiasm. So not just enthusiasm, a goal-directed enthusiasm. Okay? The points are, number one, you have to realize we are goal-seeking beings. You just can't deny that. We are goal-seeking to survive, but we have this complexity in us that wants something greater than that, so we need goals. That brings us to the second point. So make real goals that matter only to you. Don't ask anybody's permission. You don't need anybody's permission to make real goals or set real goals that matter to you. Third, enthusiasm is the rocket fuel that compels you up to that goal. That's it. And you have to know how to unlock that door for that enthusiasm. Why not me? Why not me? Why not me? It opens that door. Lastly, 4, you'll be blown off course on the way to that goal, but you won't feel so bad because you'll have the tools that you can call upon that enthusiasm even when it wanes. All right, I'll summarize it this way. It's important, I would argue critical, to recognize that we are goal-seeking organisms. Therefore, we must have a meaningful goal that we're interested in pursuing so that we can trigger it, the power of our own enthusiasm. It's enthusiasm that allows us to move swiftly through obstacles and stimulates our psychological and physical well-being. Goal-directed enthusiasm just might be one of the greatest natural cure-alls that's readily available to each and every one of us every day. All right, remember, you can take immediate action to get moving towards your goals because we take all the notes from each episode and we post them at freethinkingtools.com, and we give you instant access so you have something to work on. You can print them out, download them, sit there with a cup of coffee or whatever your favorite spot is to think, find a place to think and write. Right? Think and write. Think and write. Really important exercise. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Or you can find us on our social media channels. Just go looking for the bonus section so that you don't miss out on any of the episodes. We'd also appreciate it if you would join our mission of becoming people for others and share our content with other people so that they get the help that they need too. Be a person for others with us. That's our mission here. But remember this, I'm going to say it every single time I end all of my podcasts, and if you're a regular listener, you know what I'm going to say. Nobody is coming for you. Absolutely nobody. So go get to work on yourself and a better plan for your goals, and we will see you in the next episode to help you do just that. Thanks again.